Alright, hello. I've decided that I'm going to make a video on the progress of the mushrooms that I'm growing. I'm growing blue oysters and king oysters. And the first two jars that I inoculated were the quart jars. I've shaken them both several times. The mycelium's going through it. I made my own inoculation point, the red RTV silicone on both sides. When you stick a syringe in there to inoculate the grain, and you pull the syringe back out, it self-heals. So the smaller hole I put in the lid was for the polyfill to act as a CO2 exchange when mycelium and the grain give off CO2 and gases it can escape. Now these two jars here, you can see they've been in there for, well, I think 3 days only, and you can see the mycelium growing on the top of it. I've got one that's king oyster, and I believe this one is the blue oyster. And you can see that when I went to inject it through the polyfill port, which I've never done, but I did it after seeing a video, a piece of the polyfill, the piece I had, fell into the container, into the jar. So I quickly sprayed some alcohol around and bleach, and sprayed some alcohol on the polyfill and stuck another piece back in there. Now, another thing I learned to do, and I've done successfully, is to create a culture jar. I got some light malt extract and some corn sugar, and I put it in some water to dissolve it. It's hard to see in there, it's dark. Some people just use corn sugar or corn syrup. I'm going to be careful when I shake it up so it doesn't hit the CO, but you can see all that mycelium in there, it's all over the place. When it collects together, it's just one big white cloud, or in this case kind of a shadow within the dark liquid. So one of these quart jars were slow to colonize, so I took another syringe of the liquid culture here that I made for the king oyster, and I put some more in the jar that was slow, and within 2 days, well, today I came home and there was mycelium colonizing on top of it already. So I shook it up again, and I'm guessing within a week these two quart jars here with the rye grain will be ready to inoculate some substrate. In this case, I'm going to use straw and do the lime cure on it, and I've been told some wild bird seed with sunflower seeds. There's so much information out there, you just don't know what to go with. So anyway, I grew oysters in the 90s. I had Paul Stamets' book, and I had some success, but I know now that there's some things I didn't do, and you know, I had the exhaust fan and the humidifier and everything in there, but you get busy in life and everything, and there's sometimes you just can't keep up with everything. And I think they did fruit. They did well. There were bales of straw with just regular oyster mushrooms, and I grew mushrooms, but I think that they needed more moisture, humidity inside the grow room in the basement, and I think they needed more of an exchange of CO2 that builds up from these mushrooms growing, fruiting, and going through all that process. But anyway, this is my progress so far. So I'm happy. I'm happy. You can see that white stuff just growing in there on top of that. And that's all mycelium growing there. I have not had any, and I hate to say this word, contaminants. I did some mushrooms earlier, a couple months ago, and every jar had green mold. But I realize now that I made a fatal error, and I've corrected that error, and now I've got success. So oyster mushrooms, I've been told, are forgiving. That's the only type I've tried to grow. But anyway, any comments are welcome, any suggestions, and I wish you all the best in your mushroom cultivation efforts.